So with that being said, let's get into the 3 qualifications for the Jesus diet, or karma-free eating. These are the 3 criteria Jesus lays out in the Essene Gospel.
First is, eat what is alive. Kill neither men nor beasts, nor yet the food which goes into your mouth. For if you eat living food, the same will quicken you. But if you kill your food, the dead food will kill you also. For life comes only from life, and death only comes from death. Your bodies will become what your foods are, even as your spirits become what your thoughts are. For your body is that which you eat, and your spirit is that which you think.
Such a beautiful passage. And I really don't know how anyone could argue this, man. It's like, we know biologically our body literally is made out of the food we eat. So do I want my body to be made out of dead flesh that was tortured and killed against its will and died in fear and suffering? I really don't. I'd rather have the life force energy and fruit and vegetables and herbs, like the prana, the chi that's alive when you eat it. When you kill an animal, James, the life force energy, the consciousness leaves that animal, and you're just getting the dead, rotting flesh. And it's like, when you kill an animal, watch how fast that flesh rots. I mean, butchers have to get that meat into the freezer quick because it very quickly decays and grays and gets very disgusting to look at.
Parasites.
So most like fish and red meat at the supermarket is actually dyed red, because otherwise it would look gray and old and ashen and just disgusting. And it's like, yeah, do I want to be putting this stuff in my body? Not to mention how much longer, 5 times the digestion time it takes to break down meat, which slows down your whole metabolism, weighs down your gut. There's so many implications of eating dead flesh just from a nutritional standpoint, which we'll get into next week. But I just love this axiom of like, eat what has the life force energy of God in it. That's what creates health and longevity in the body.
So Aaron, what would you say to people who are going, oh, well, you're killing plants, or you're causing suffering with plant agriculture because mice and insects are killed in the process of that?
Well, we're going to do an episode with Cam in studio next week, and we're going to get into all those questions of unpacking those arguments of, oh, doesn't, agriculture kill as many as the factory farming industry, or whatever the argument is. It's very silly, in my opinion, to claim that someone who eats vegetables is contributing to just as much death and suffering as somebody who eats factory farmed meat. But the simple response, James, is that plants have no central nervous system, which means it is impossible that they can feel pain or psychologically suffer. Even without a brain, you can't feel pain or psychologically suffer, let alone a nervous system. And so that doesn't mean plants aren't sentient and they can interface with the environment in ways or sense the environment. They definitely can. But we're interested in minimizing suffering. And there is no evidence at all that plants can suffer in a way that an animal can. So it really does make me shake my head a little bit when I hear people try to make that argument of like, well, but you kill plants. Don't you think that they can suffer? It's like, you really think that biting into an orange or a tomato or a bell pepper is the same as killing a cow or a goat? It's just kind of a crazy argument.
It is. And most of the things we eat, we're not killing. The fruits, the tree still lives. With most of the plants, the root survives. The plant actually survives the harvesting process.
Well, that is actually the philosophy we give when people want to know, like, what's the premise of the Jesus diet? We say it's a harm-free, death-free diet. But you eat plants. No. I don't eat plants. I eat what plants produce. The bell pepper, the tomato, whatever. I don't eat trees. I eat what trees produce, the fruit. And fruit's literally designed to be eaten so it can spread, the seed. And then likewise, I do not eat animals. I eat what animals produce, milk and eggs, in a cruelty-free, harm-free way. We'll get into that later, but that's kind of the premise of the Jesus diet. And so with that, we have the second axiom. Eat what is abundant in nature. So Jesus is kind of laying out here. Here's how you know what the Creator intended mankind to eat. Eat what is alive, eat what is abundant in nature. For I tell you truly, the God of the living is richer than all the rich on the earth, and his abundant table is richer than the richest table of feasting of all the rich upon the earth. Eat therefore all your life at the table of our earthly mother, and you will never see want. So I love this picture too, because it's describing that the earth is infinite and abundant. We can grow infinite fruit and vegetables and herbs and seeds and nuts and legumes. No matter how much our population size grows, we can always provide for every human being on earth to eat this way because the earth is abundant. We can always grow these crops infinitely. And it's pretty cool, James, when you study this kind of agriculture, that I think like 1 acre of land could feed like 120 people or more just on 1 acre of farming fruits and vegetables. So yeah, we live in an abundant earth. And so why do we need to go around killing sentient creatures just to have nourishment? This is not the way God designed it to be. And then the third axiom of the Jesus diet that Jesus gives is to eat what is local and what is real, like real food that's not brought from far away or processed or whatever. Jesus says, "Eat not unclean foods brought from far countries, but eat always that which your trees bear. For your God knows well what is needful for you, and where and when. He gives to all people of all kingdoms for food that which is best for each." So the idea is when you eat food that travels from a faraway land, the life force energy in that food is going to start to degrade over time once it gets detached from its life force, from the tree or from the vine or whatever. And so you want to eat that food as fast as possible when you pluck it from the earth, right? That's what Jesus is laying out here. So in our day and age, yes, it's a little bit trickier to do that. Way more people, way more spread out. But the axiom is do your best to eat what is local, locally grown honey, fruits, vegetables, and so forth. If you can grow your own food, that's kind of the ultimate, right, James?
Oh, yeah. And, it's interesting. It was very prophetic because now we see with big agriculture and the crops, when it ships from across the world, it's usually sprayed with a lot of stuff to keep it fresh or appearing fresh. So it's very relevant to today.
Yeah, they literally have to soak our food in poison just to get it to us before it rots and decays. So that's a natural law, right? Because fruits and vegetables and vegetarian foods decay once they're taken from their source, there's a ticking clock on them, right? You want to eat them as soon as you can because natural law dictates this. It doesn't want you to eat things from very, very far away for many good reasons. So that's the third axiom that Jesus gives.
Experience the power of nature with the Organic Muscle Pre-Workout. 20 organic superfoods, plus mushrooms, fruit, and clean caffeine for smooth energy, powerful strength, increased stamina, and full body nourishment. There's no jitters, no crash, no BS. Just pure organic energy for your healthiest life.
And so in terms of laying out the diet itself, the way it's structured, this is the Jesus diet food pyramid to make this kind of simple for you.
So eat always from the table of God, the fruits of the trees, the grain and plants of the field, the milk of the beasts, and the honey of the bees. For everything beyond these is of Satan, and leads by the way of sins and diseases unto death. But the foods which you eat from the abundant table of God give you strength and youth to your body, and you will ever see diseases.
So let's break down this food pyramid and explain why we have these categorized the way that they are. This is definitely the way we've been eating for the last few years. And we can say for a lot of good reasons that we believe the vast majority, 50% of what we eat should be fruit and honey and fruit juice. And you can throw vegetables in there as well. But specifically fruit, we believe is the supreme food for humanity. If you can shift your diet to being 50% organic fruit, you will be amazed at the health benefits that you gather from this. First of all, energy will go through the roof. Metabolism and fat loss goes through the roof. Fructose is a very powerful molecule of sugar that activates some really amazing longevity hormones like FGF21 and AMPK, which preserve muscle mass, burn body fat, and help extend your lifespan. They increase your longevity markers. So fruit is the food for longevity. If you want to look young, feel young, have vibrant vitality and energy, you got to eat fruit and fruit juice as well. Honey is also an amazing source of energy and nutrients. Honey is something Jesus talks about a lot in the Essene Gospel of Peace as an amazing food. So we know that there's probably vegans listening to this who have their disagreements on, no, I don't think you should eat honey. I don't think you should eat eggs or milk. And so I want to just give our take on this if I can. We totally respect that point of view, and I understand it's a good argument to be made. But when it comes to natural law, maybe this is because I look at everything through the kind of law of one lens of the densities model and reincarnation and so forth. But this is touched on a little bit in the law of one, that animals are second density life forms. Humans are third density life forms. Extraterrestrials that are hovering in our skies these days are fourth density and beyond. And so one of the ways that the densities works, James, is that each density level helps the previous one to evolve towards that next density. So the fourth helps the third helps the second helps the first. And so the way that the third density helps the second to evolve, meaning every animal that we see is a real divine soul, just like you and me. And this is also something that near-death experiencers attest to, right, James? That many NDEs will come back saying, hey, I had a past life regression in my NDE. I saw my past lives, and I saw a lifetime where I was a fox, where I was a deer, where I was this animal, that animal. Not uncommon that you hear this in near-death experiences. And so if that's true, that every animal is also a living soul like you and I, that's on an evolutionary journey, the law of one explains how when we adopt pets, for example, and we have a cat or a dog and we give it a name, we give it rules, boundaries, and limitations, we're essentially teaching that second density soul how to be a third density human. And so this is the way that karma works in natural law. There has to always be a mutual giving and receiving, equal reciprocity, right? That's the positive polarity. And so here's my argument, my justification for eating eggs and raw milk and honey, if and only if you can get them from a cruelty-free source that treats their animals with love and kindness, doesn't do things like forced insemination and all that. I'm against all that stuff. But I've been lucky enough, blessed enough to procure raw milk and eggs from a farm here in Austin that I've actually been to that they do treat their animals this way. They love their animals. They don't do forced insemination. They let bulls come in and naturally mate with the females, and they have tons and tons of milk left over, tons and tons of eggs left over, and these animals live great lives. If you're going to give an animal, James, free food, free shelter and protection, they never have to worry about predators. They never have to know where their next meal is coming from. You're fully providing for this animal, like on a farm. It's not too much to ask that the animal give something back in return as a kind of thanks, right? Whether it's some of their eggs or their milk, whatever's left over that the animal doesn't use. And so that's the giving and receiving that actually helps that second density soul to evolve and polarize towards third density. When a second density creature engages in a giving receiving relationship with a third density human, their soul is becoming third density in that lifetime. And so that's a little bit of an argument from natural law. And I totally understand if some people still don't agree. But just so we can clear up that question, because it comes up a lot on this topic with vegans, this is why we believe that on the Jesus diet, there is room for eating eggs and milk if you can fit it into that criteria of no harm, cruelty free. And if you can't, like when I travel, I don't eat eggs or milk that I can't know, because I can't know, right, where I'm getting this from. Even from like a supermarket or something that says cage free and all that, I just don't know for sure. So I'm not going to eat eggs when I travel. So that's the way that I do it. James, you ate this way for, I think, the first year and a half or so. And I've recently decided to just go off of eggs and milk altogether. So this is the way we describe that this diet is very customizable. You don't have to eat any one certain way, but it's like, these are the food groups, these are the axioms you want to follow, and you can customize the diet to your preference from there.
Yeah, it's fully customizable, and we wanted this to be kind of open source so it can meet people where they're at. And even if you don't feel comfortable giving up meat yet, you could even go pescatarian for a bit with the goal of eventually going down to vegetarian. And it might not be a bad idea as your gut flora and microbiome adjust to the new diet. It could actually be counterproductive to just go from full-blown meat eater to vegan overnight, because it's completely different gut microbiomes that are necessary to digest these different diets. So we do recommend a gradual transition. And regarding the raw milk and eggs, I totally understand the vegan perspective on that. I've given up the dairy. I'm actually back eating some eggs, Aaron, but it's very important to know that 99% of the time there's going to be cruelty involved in these industries, and it is difficult to procure cruelty-free eggs and milk. The ideal scenario for the future Earth, which we are manifesting, is there will be family-owned or local neighborhood farms. So one family will have chickens, backyard chickens. Another family will have some cattle, and they'll be part of the family. They'll be part of the community. Those animals will be part of the community. It won't be this kind of enterprise of animal agriculture as much as being a neighborhood, wholesome, loving endeavor. That's the ideal vision. So if you are interested in raw milk and eggs, you're going to have to get involved with your local farmers market. You probably can't find it at the grocery store, and talk to them, get to know them, and hopefully you could find something good. And if you can't, you could be extremely healthy and vibrant without it as well on the vegan diet. Friends, if you are enjoying this content, I would truly appreciate if you could go ahead and hit the like and subscribe button. This will help our little channel grow and flourish so we could spread the good word. Thanks. I appreciate y'all.